Chapter 6. The Conscious Universe. We have already seen some things about consciousness from our studies so far. We also know that we are more than just our ego-conscious selves within physical reality. So now let us add this other part of us into the equation. I believe we are adding to this level of reality and creating it from all parts of ourselves. Some of these parts may have an even closer relationship to the real substance of physical matter, and some may be more separate from this universe as physical. Let us start with the ego consciousness, as it is the closest we have for understanding. Most of this level we have already examined. In short, we think of something and then may take actions to manifest it. On this level, most of this activity comes down to choice and physical manipulation. I want to point out that the ego is nothing bad in and of itself. I mentioned this as there are some disciplines that say we should subdue the ego. The ego is a driving force that we need. It may seem to get in the way at times, but it is a very necessary thing for us to function in this reality. It is a driving force in that it wants and forces us into action. As in our blue ball we want, we have to decide how much energy to put into it in order to have it. This is proportional to our desire for it. When it reaches a certain intensity, we choose to take action to fulfill it. If it is there, but not too intense, we can go to the store and get a ball that is close enough. With more intensity, we may search for a ball that is very close. With enough intensity, we will have to make the ball to get it just as our imaginary metaphysical ball is. You may have noticed that even on this level of decision, consciousness, how the word intensity can propel the thought into actualization. This analogy may be very close to the operation of coordinate points, without the magic you may have applied to these concepts earlier. Now let us try to place the rest of our consciousnesses that we are not attuned to into this picture. Because we are not as fully aware of this area of ourselves, it may be difficult to understand all of the functionings of these other conscious parts or how they, quote, think. The closest one we have memory of are in dreams. If these thoughts are emanated in a similar fashion, then they too would have some overall influence on matter and our universe. In this regard, let us see how it looks from the other side. Nature of Personal Reality, Section 669. Quote, because you are physical creatures, even your dreams must be translated through the reality of your flesh. En masse, and through the methods I have described, you help form a physical reality in which, however, each experience is unique, period. End quote. Beyond this level of dreams, where we have at least some recollection of thoughts, are the deeper inner portions of our being. This is first in the form of the inner self, and then to the entity. Are these levels so far from us that we cannot know them? No, there are many people who have come to understand these portions of our fuller being to one extent or another, and there have been instructions given on how to do just that. Psychics seem to be in touch with the inner self to a large degree and able to receive knowledge from this area of our being. Others who have at some time attained self-actualization or enlightenment may have touched upon these deeper levels of what we are. So the path is not closed off, but because of the nature and the purpose of the ego, consciousness does not like to focus for long in these areas. Let's look into why this is. Nature of Personal Reality, Session 672. Quote, many of the most powerful aspects of consciousness are at work precisely when it seems to you that you are relatively unconscious and asleep to physical reality. It would be impossible for you to handle the vast amounts of material available in context of time as you presently experience it. To operate adequately in your highly specific field, an almost infinite amount of information must be instantly assimilated, probabilities calculated, and certain balances maintained of which you are not even aware. Latently, your consciousness is capable of performing these feats, but the work cannot be done with part of your consciousness that is strongly attached to the space-time relationship. What you think of as your conscious mind is given the task of assessing the, quote, facts of daily living. It then formulates beliefs about reality, and these are used in the dream state as one of the main yardsticks, so to speak, that activates the emergence of certain probable events rather than others. Break. Since you are not only a physically focused creature, however, other issues also operate. You have within yourselves the condensed knowledge of your entire being. This information cannot appear in any complete fashion within a consciousness connected with the physical brain. The multidimensional reality simply cannot be expressed. In the dream state, when consciousness relates opaquely to physical concerns, glimpses of the multidimensional self can appear in dream imagery and fantasies that will symbolically express your greater existence. Break. Beneath the dreams that you recall are experiences of consciousness that appear only now and then and in distorted form. These express in non-physical terms your relationship with your own being. Here you are regenerated, and you are quite free of any conscious beliefs. From this level, individual and mass ideas are formed. This activity often goes on beneath ordinary dreaming. To a far less extent, it goes on all the time, for it represents the basis upon which your present consciousness rides. The physical reality into which you are born is not nearly as solid or predetermined or defined as it appears to be. Instead, there is a field of rich interaction. Your consciousness must be focused at a particular range of frequencies before it can even perceive matter, much less solidity. In sleep, your consciousness fluctuates between ranges of intensities, literally flowing into and out of the physical matter groupings, and forming from more plastic, quote, pre-matter stages the final shape that matter will take in your world. The same applies to events, where some will be crystallized in physical terms and others will not. The deeper portions of your own being are aware of those purposes and intents that are uniquely yours. Unconsciously, then, you have within you what you might think of as a set of blueprints for the particular kind of physical reality you want to materialize. You are the architect. End quote. From this we can see other parts of us are also involved in creating the stability of the physical reality that we perceive. There is much work done in our sleep for the creation of our reality, both individually and in mass. It is because of the mass amount of things that occur that our ego does not wish to focus on it, or that the physical brain just cannot process it all. Its concerns is with manipulation within this reality. A good analogy of this are all of the functions of the body that we do not focus on consciously at this level, but there is no dispute that they occur. If we had to control all this, our focus from the ego would be divided and distracted. The same premise operates on our creation of our environment. But this is still not the full story of physical matter or the reality that we experience. It is the statement of a field of interaction we want to look at. Interaction with what or who? On the human level, we can obviously see the interaction we have with each other. Your environment is filled with objects that you did not personally make, but someone did. It was thought of, designed, and built from the idea of what it was to be. It then comes into our possession because we want it, thought about it, and then got it. This brings us back to the question of the things we as humans did not make. We may create something out of steel, but we did not create the steel. Or so that is the premise we have at this time. By what has been said about thoughts and E-units, we are told they do create matter. How about the forms that exist despite us humans? This all brings us to the interactions with the rest of existence, and I will use one more quote to dive into this area. Nature of Personal Reality, Section 610. Quote, "The living picture of the world grows within the mind. The world as it appears to you is like a three-dimensional painting in which each individual takes a hand. Each color, each line that appears within it has first been painted within a mind, and only then does it materialize without. In this case, however, the artists themselves are a portion of the painting and appear within it. There is no effect in the exterior world that does not spring from an inner source. There is no motion that does not first occur within the mind. The great creativity of consciousness is your heritage. It does not belong to mankind alone, however. Each living being possesses it, and the living world consists of a spontaneous cooperation that exists between the smallest and the highest, the greatest and the lowliest, between the atoms and the molecules and the conscious, reasoning mind." End quote. What this is saying to us is that there is more consciousness than just us humans. It may be easy enough for us to agree that animals have a consciousness that adds to our world, but it goes much deeper than just this. We could break it down and say that every living thing has a conscience, and this is the interaction and joint venture of creation. This statement is true, but there is still more to explain. We will, however, start with this idea of life consciousness as our next position of study. How far down do you break what is life and what is not? If we take it down to the smallest unit, we come up with the cell. Each and every cell performs the functions of what we consider life, and if it was not for their cooperative nature to form together, we could not have a body. Each cell is an individual. It has a membrane that separates it from others, just as we have a skin and a structure that we claim as our own body. In the above quote, we said that each individual takes part in this creation, so we can at this point include every cell in existence, both animal, plant, or other. We can also say that they have a consciousness. It is here that some science has a problem. Because we are humans and we think based on our focus in reality, we cannot see that a single cell could have consciousness. This is because we only think of our consciousness as valid. For many years, and still in most cases, religion has argued that it is only humans that have a soul. This is a very narrow view, and hardly the truth if we are considering the soul as the metaphysical essence of what we are. In this view, all living things have an essence of what they are, what they sprang from.